Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your hosts are Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm, and Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. Bob and Stephen will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons and Stephen Nooner.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
And this is Bob Gibbons, and we are here with another great guest this week. We're excited to have Nick Clark with us. Nick is the CEO and founder of Common Desk, The Common Desk. Is it the?
You can drop the if you want.
It's
Common.
It's the for the theCommonDesk.com, right?
You go, Common Desk. We'll go Common Desk.
Anything but common is Nick. Nick's got a great background. He was in the commercial real estate for a long time. We were just reminiscing on having trying to do a couple of deals long ago. I don't know that those actually happened, but anyway. So he worked with a few different real estate companies, got into the idea of coworking when he worked for another competitor of his. And so he's got 4 locations now: Oak Cliff, Deep Ellum, Fort Worth, and Plano. And I've been to 2 of those. Oh, nice. Love them. And so welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. And you can find them at theCommonDesk.com.
See, I knew it was the.
That is true.
Yes.
Okay. See, I'm not totally nuts.
Welcome. So, did you bring a quote, Bob?
Did I bring a... Stephen.
You always bring quotes.
You are the quote man.
I know.
What are you asking me for?
We start with wisdom of others, and usually I'm the person that brings. So I love to collect quotes. Do you have a favorite quote?
Honestly, nothing is coming to mind.
All right. So I'm going to choose all meaningful progress begins by telling the truth.
And who said that?
I've got it from Dan Sullivan, but I've also heard that who's the founder and creator of Strategic Coach. But I also heard that it's like a 12-stepper thing. So
say it again.
All meaningful progress begins by telling the truth.
Meaningful progress begins by telling the truth.
Is that your way of saying that I can't lie on the show?
You can't, right?
We're not going to stretch the truth today.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that sometimes acknowledging things as they are, right? Like when you have a problem or a challenge, like for me, why it's powerful is we can create stories and add emotion to it and everything else. But when you acknowledge things just as they are, it provides that clarity for you to have the confidence to take action. So anyway, I like that quote.
Yeah, I think we've seen it a little bit in business, just in being authentic. You know, when we're working with these landlords, being authentic is helpful. Like they want to see the struggles, they want to see some of the scars, they want to see some of the battle wounds, and they know that not everything is perfect. Especially with a business like ours that started 6 years ago, there's going to be some bumps along the way. Always.
And that makes for a better story.
Definitely.
So let's talk about the story. Before we get to Common Desk, though, kind of give us the rundown on what was the first business you ever started, even if it was as a kid?
My first business as a kid was actually selling mistletoe to the neighborhood families, which was actually a pretty profitable business because we were able to. My buddy and I were able to go around. We went around with this like little red wagon, like that pretty much all kids have. We'd go knock on doors and basically negotiate a price to cut the mistletoe out of people's trees because it is it's invasive.
Yeah, it's a parasite
to a tree, and so we get some money from cutting the mistletoe out of a tree, and then we'd take it home. My mom would wrap a pretty Christmas bow on it. And then we'd take it back out and sell it back to the neighborhood family. So it was actually first business was profitable. So
yeah, I mean free inventory, no overhead.
Yeah, it was great.
You know, it's kind of funny. That reminds me of my brother. When we were kids, we'd go to North Carolina to visit family, and he'd buy these little boxes of rock candy, they called it.
Yeah.
So he'd buy like a box for $25, And then each string of it, which are, I don't remember, the 5 or so strings in there, he'd go back to school and sell each one for a quarter.
Yeah,
It's great. Works well.
It was perfect.
We did Sam's Club. I got in trouble, almost expelled from school because they told me to stop, and I kept doing it.
Doing what?
We go to Sam's Club, buy the blow pops, you know, and I'd sell them for $1 a piece. But I mean, you buy like the whole big.
You were selling blow pops for
blow
$1 a
pops
piece?
for $1 a piece.
Wow. And
Playing in senior high, 94.
Oh, that was, you were
Yeah.
doing that to seniors?
That's impressive.
I thought it was like grade school.
Yeah.
Going rate on blow pops is still like 50 cents. So
That's hilarious. So then give us the rundown on sort of the background. What led to this? When you got out of school, what were you doing?
yeah, so I guess the common desk story really kind of began with I had an internship in college, and it was in just your typical multi-tenant office building. The company that I was with, it was a development company. Actually worked on a lot of the CVS site work around Dallas. But they were inside of a Regis, so they were inside of a shared office space. And this is between my junior and senior year of college. And so honestly, I didn't quite know what Regis was or what the shared office concept was. But I remember being there and just thinking, gosh, this is awful. I mean, it was bad. There was no personality to it. Nobody seemed like they were having a good time at work.
Yeah.
And there I was sitting for 10 hours a day. And I just remember having this revelation at that time of, man, is this going to be the rest of my life?
It could have been worse.
Yeah,
I was in an executive suite over in Arlington.
Well,
in
this was Las Colinas.
1984.
Arlington might be a little worse.
And there
but,
wasn't even a Regis at that time. It was before Regis even started,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It was pretty depressing.
So it's interesting. I mean, that was kind of the beginning, and honestly, in a weird way, it's what it developed early on for me, kind of a love for office environments. Because I've always felt like there's been a big opportunity there, and the fact that like let's produce an environment that people want to experience work in, that people want to be at. And I thought that was the biggest thing that was missing across the board. It's just like, hey, let's create these office buildings where people really enjoy them.
So you recognized it without having experienced it. So you just were in this and you're like, this sucks. There's got to be a better way.
Basically, yes.
But you didn't. I mean, that was an internship. You said
That was an internship. Obviously, I'm not going to Regis at that point and letting them know what was flawed
Hey, you're
with
doing
their
it wrong.
business model.
Go ahead.
No,
kid.
so I mean,
Why not? Every other 20-something does.
right. So I mean, from there, I came out of college. I majored in real estate finance at SMU, and went from there. I knew I wanted to be on the landlord side of the business. So I could participate in things like design and amenities and experiences within those amenities. And so it's a big reason why I chose to go to work for a landlord like Pillar Commercial.
Mhm.
It's a smaller Dallas-based company. We talked a little earlier about my relationship with Manny and that company, but it was a tight-knit company, and it was a company where all of us wore a ton of hats. And so
Best way to learn is
it was
to
the best
join
way
a
to
small
learn.
company, right?
Office right next door to the CEO, and we had our hands in everything from leasing to project management to what kind of amenities we're installing in these buildings and how we're operating in them. So that was kind of that was the beginning of my career.
So what did you see when you were a leasing agent for office buildings that you liked, that you didn't like, that you thought wasn't being done right?
Yeah, so I mean, well, to kind of frame up when this was, so I came out of school in 2005. So we had a few years there that were nice. Things were going well, and then
2.5.
obviously the recession hit. And in my opinion, the recession really did some interesting things to the office world. One big thing that we saw coming out of that recession was these new kind of millennial-led companies were coming into our office buildings, and they were wanting what I now call as creative density. So they were wanting to put 8 to 10 guys per 1,000 square feet.
Well, this sounds familiar.
into like a 3,000 square foot spec suite. And
Wow.
and so they're like, yeah, this spec suite looks great, guys. we're going to move 25 dudes in here. And we're like,
Are any of them going to be bathing?
right. It's like, I don't know if that's going to be
basis.
possible. And then on top of that, a lot of these companies are saying, hey, we can't sign a 3 or a 5-year lease. One, either we're just getting going, or we're having so much success that the company's really growing right now, and we don't know what revenue visibility is going to look like 24 months from now. So we'd really like to try to figure out a 1-year deal. And based on our lending requirements and the projects that we have, we couldn't make these type of deals. And so that was kind of the beginning of what when my mind started wrapping around, there's got to be a different type of product out there to really to lend itself to groups like this.
So when you went over to Holt Lunsford Commercial, were you leasing office buildings again, or did you doing industrial?
Holt was actually a small period of time right before Pillar Commercial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Holt, that shop's great. I think I just had the realization that I think we all know in Dallas real estate, Holt's more of an industrial
guy. Yeah.
and I really enjoyed the office product. So that was the reason for switching over to Pillar.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, most of my career has been in office. I dabble in industrial, but they're very different animals, and they have very different levels.
Dabbles a little.
Very different levels of service that the landlord is expected to provide to the tenant as well. So if you're kind of a high touch, high service person, office fits your personality a lot better than industrial does.
Right.
It's more of a Wild West in industrial.
It is, and I've always really enjoyed the design side of our business. The guys used to joke around at Pillar that I was the backup space planner, because if I think we used Intos at the time, but if Intos wasn't available or was going to take a little too long, I'd be drawing out on a sheet and handing it over to the contractor, and sometimes that was allowing us to get deals done, but I've always enjoyed the design side as well.
It's amazing to me. Sometimes I have a client that's a kind of a frustrated architect, and I mean, I have this one guy, he would design every single space we toured. And I'm not talking just like sketching it out by hand. I'm talking about professional, the dimensions. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that before. And I was like, man, you're in the wrong industry.
Yeah.
He was in some sort of financial services thing. And it was just like, wow, this is surprising. But okay, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the formation of Common Desk itself.
Awesome.
Stay tuned.
Stick around.
Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com.
We're back with the next level. We're here with Nick Clark, founder and CEO of Common Desk. You can find him at thecommondesk.com.
So, Nick, we were talking about your background and how you were in commercial real estate. You'd done an internship as well, and you'd been learning things along the way of what you liked and didn't like and the way space was configured, et cetera, but also you were listening to the users of the space, and their needs didn't exactly fit with the needs of the landlords in those buildings. So take it from there, and how does that result in Common Desk?
Yeah, so now we're right around 2011, and I actually at Pillar we would pick up a few tenant rep assignments every now and then to
Shame on you.
make a dime on the side. And so I was representing a group called Creative Consortium Group. They're now called the Foundry Group. They're out of Mockingbird Station.
Yeah, I've been there.
And so at the time, they were looking for a second location downtown, but they're a shared office provider. And I would say that they, especially back in 2011, they were kind of something in between what you would call co-working and what is the executive suite business.
Yes.
But it was the first time I'd ever seen somebody make the shared office environment kind of cool. They had stained concrete floors, they had cool finishes. The staff was inviting and welcoming. As
They
you're
had
walking
games
into
like
space.
ping pong or
Yeah,
foosball
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, they were cool. And so I was enjoying working on that assignment. But about halfway through, as I was doing more and more research as far as just kind of what their industry looked like, I really stumbled upon coworking, and was able to really kind of see how well it was growing on the West Coast at the time. And it was predominantly in San Francisco. And remember, this is in 2011. This is well before kind of the WeWork phenomenon.
Sure. Right.
Really, there was not a big player in the game yet. It was a very grassroots movement at the time. But I'll be honest, I instantly fell in love with it. I loved that it brought this cool design, this community aspect to an office environment that I felt like was missing. And in 2011, it was mainly for your freelancers or your 1 to 2 man startups. But if you'd spent a lot of time in the office world, you would know that the flexibility and cool factor was something that more and more companies were wanting. And so to me, it felt like the beginning of something that could be big.
And why did they want that, you think?
It goes back to some of our conversations we were having earlier. I mean, more and more companies were wanting flexibility because they couldn't forecast where their company would be.
But like the cool factor you were talking about, what was it about that cool factor that was important to them?
I think it goes back to hiring, employee retention.
Yeah.
Especially the millennials, or is that?
Definitely. The millennials have changed everything as it pertains to that. If you think about CEOs 20 years ago, I mean, Preston Center is around because all of the CEOs wanted to office where they live.
Yes.
But now CEOs are that's changing. The HR directors are making more real estate decisions, and that's because companies are realizing that they need to provide an office where their employees live, and that way they can attract better employees and keep those employees satisfied. So, anyways, we were. It was really that kind of sparked the idea. And I went to Creative Consortium Group and basically told them, hey, I've enjoyed this assignment, but
I'm going to be a competitor. I'm
going to fire myself because I'm going to go create a little competition for you.
How'd they like that?
They were kind. I mean, they wished me luck, and it was about a week after that I went into Manny's office and let them know that I was resigning from Pillar. This is at the very end of 2011, and started to get to work on Common Desk.
So started to get to work. So you leave an income. So then, I mean, have you saved and planned? I mean, like where?
Yeah. So the funny thing is if I could go back and give myself a little advice, it would have been to
have some cash
to probably stay at Pillar as long as possible and to only quit when it was absolutely necessary. But I'll be honest, at the time, I'd had these kind of dreams of striking out on my own and doing my own thing, and I tried a few different ideas, and I really felt like I just had to get rid of the safety net and to kind of go for it. And I had just enough money in the bank. I sold a few investment properties that I had. I actually ended up selling my car. I literally went kind of all in on it, and we scraped together everything I had and was able to get that first space open.
And it's not cheap to set up a co-working space because, I mean, yeah, you're leasing the building, so you don't have to buy that, but you still got to put up a deposit. You got to put up first month's rent. You got to buy all the furniture, all the equipment, hire the people. I mean, there's still a sizable investment.
Yeah, it's becoming more expensive by the day.
I'm sure
it was expensive in 2012 as well.
So did you do that just out of your pocket, or were you able to raise investor money? Or
no,
loans,
it was completely bootstrapped. The company's actually been bootstrapped until about 2 months ago. So everything we did for the first 6 years of the business was completely bootstrapped.
And are you the sole owner, or do you have other? Wow. Congrats. That's pretty incredible to see somebody be able to pull that off.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean,
Did it before. I mean,
we got a lot. There's a lot of luck that kind of came into that. I mean, one, if we rewind the clock to 2012, our first location is in Deep Ellum.
Great one. Still my favorite.
It's my favorite too. I still that's where I report to work every day.
And I don't mean my favorite common desk. It's my favorite co-working place I've ever seen.
Thank you.
And I've been to a bunch of them. So
yeah,
I really like
quite
that
a compliment. Thank you. But it was interesting. I mean, it's Deep Ellum now looks like it was this genius location that we came up with in 2012. But I'll have to be. I mean, since you said we're being fully honest on this show,
yeah.
It was the cheapest office space I could find in 2012.
And there's no parking. Are you nuts?
I mean, parking is a major problem in Deep Ellum for the nightlife. But we're an 8 to 5 business, and if you go down to Deep Ellum, especially a few years ago at 2 p.m. and nobody was there, and so parking's actually never been a problem for us down there, which is nice. At 5 p.m. parking becomes quite an issue.
Well, now that you mentioned that, when I did tour your space, I was able to park on the street, right, and not immediately in front of the door, but just within 5 car lengths.
Yeah,
I
mean,
thought you were
hopefully.
going to say when you did tour space, I was drunk and it was after.
Well, they give you free beer at these co-working places.
Sure. Hopefully the city of Dallas is not listening, but the meters are still free during the day down there, which is great for us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we, it was October of 2012 when we opened the first space, and it was 4,000 square feet. I mean, it wasn't big, and it was honestly about as big of a swing as we could make with the cash that we had on hand.
And you said we, right? So who did you rope
Yeah, I would
into this
say
thing
we.
with
We've
you?
all. I mean, there was always been employees, staff, involved.
Gotcha.
It's been very much so of a we effort.
Yeah.
Over the years, we now have a staff of 26 people, and honestly, they're magical. They make me look good on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You're a receptionist, or I'm not sure what the right term is for her position, but the woman that runs the front desk in Plano location is amazing.
Yeah, that's Megan.
I love her.
She's great. And that's our host. They're right there at the hospitality bar is what we call the front desk, because at the front desk you can, if it's in the afternoon, Megan will serve you a beer. If it's in the morning, she'll make sure you get a good cup of coffee in your hands before you head on up to your office.
Well, I mean, we had a client who was going to be looking at your location up in Plano, and my wife, who works with me full time, called Megan and just said, "Hey, this is Jan Gibbons. I'm, needing information on this or that." Well, later that day, I just happened to stop by unannounced, and there was probably 5 or 6 hours between those two events. And when I walked in, I was like, "Hi, I'm Bob Gibbons with Riata. I just wanted to see if I could take a quick tour." She goes, "Oh, yeah. So Jan and I talked earlier." I mean, she just picked up like
That's cool.
Nothing. Like she just had this call. Like she just hung up from Jan. It was amazing.
That's cool. That's really
So
neat.
I was impressed. And I talked to her, and she said this was her first job out of college.
That's true. We most of the employees we hire, they're right out of college.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you look for a specific background? Since you have a great crew, so have you identified kind of what's your secret sauce of profile?
There's been a few things, which this is kind of funny, but most of our employees have some sort of a Christian camp background.
Yeah. Like a Pine Cove or
like a Pine Cove.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We've just found that it really it produces, especially these younger kids that are coming right out of school. They know how to be hospitable. They know how to, and they also know how to enjoy themselves and have fun at work.
Yeah.
If you think about kind of those camp vibes, that's what they do all day.
Oh, it's so fun.
And so it's been where we've found a lot of people.
Best summer of my life. I worked as a waterfront director at a camp for kids in Arkansas for a whole summer. It was
nice,
fantastic. I loved it.
So is there Is there a common desk chant or cheer that's been created?
There's not.
we go to family camp, Pine Cove.
We try not to get too campy at work.
Do you have any crafts being done, every day?
No,
craft time?
There are craft beers being served, but no craft time.
So craft beers being served by
craft
Christians.
time is happy hour.
I love it. Okay, well, so we don't have in 30 seconds. What is the one thing that you would have done differently when you started, had you known now?
Well, it's a longer story, but as a young entrepreneur, I wasn't great at budgeting. And so there's a crazy story that involves all of our office chairs that might be great to pick up on the next segment.
We'll pick that up on
Perfect.
the other side then. So you're listening to The Next Level on 1190 AM.
Hi, my name is Fern, and I've been an empowered team member at Alkali for over 5 years. I first learned about Alkali through an online job board and was intrigued to learn that Alkali was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. But what captivated me was Alkali's mission statement, which is closely aligned with my own beliefs. So what's kept me at Alkali for over 5 years? First, Alkali's 5 core values match my own. Second, I've been empowered to use my unique abilities to impact our community, our clients, and Alkali. If you'd like to learn more about becoming an empowered Alkali team member, visit our website, alkaliservices.com. That's ALKALI services.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. We're here with Nick Clark from The Common Desk, and you can find out more at thecommondesk.com.
So let's get back in because you teed up a great little hook there for a story.
Yeah, so we were talking about mistakes that are made early on, and as I was telling you guys, it's Common Desk it's been a bootstrapped business, and so there was a finite amount of cash on hand as we were gearing up towards the opening, and something I did not realize in the coworking business is how expensive office chairs can be. Oddly enough, I waited until about the last week before we opened the original space to actually look into ordering office chairs.
Oh,
yeah, and so there was about $5,000 left in the bank account, and we're gearing up for opening, and of course there needs to be some sort of a capital reserve in place.
so you hadn't ordered all stand-up desks.
No. No, we found a local
desk.
guy to make the desk for about $100 a pop.
Oh,
so
nice.
we were being pretty frugal at the time. But yeah, so there was little money left for chairs, and I finally kind of had this freak out moment. And like any great entrepreneur does, I called my mom, and basically I got on the phone with her and I was like, "Mom, we need 100 office chairs, and we're almost out of money here. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I think we're gonna have to go to the Salvation Army and start picking chairs up for $15 a pop or something." And she was like any good Southern Baptist woman would say. She goes, "Honey, I'm gonna go back home and say a quick prayer for you."
Yeah.
Pray about it.
And I know the Lord will provide. And I remember saying to Mom, I was like, "Mom, I need you to go to the Salvation Army right now. I do not need you to go home and pray." But anyways,
Pray on the way to the Salvation Army.
Yeah, pray on your way to the thrift stores, Mom. But it was pretty funny because it was like, no kidding, about 30 minutes after that, a buddy, which you probably know him, his name's Russ Johnson.
Yep.
He gives me a call, and he had just toured Commodest. So Russ is a broker here in town. He had just toured Commodest the week before. We're buddies. We went and grabbed lunch and saw the space, and he's like, "Hey man, you wouldn't happen to need some office chairs, do you?"
Oh, no.
No way.
And I was like, actually, that is the crisis of the day right now. And he's like, "Well, over at Park Central 3, we have about 120 retro-looking office chairs."
Perfect.
That are actually kind of an orangish red, which is the Common Desk color. That would be a perfect fit in your space. And I was like, "Dude, how much do you want for them?" And he's like, "The property manager seriously just wants you to order them or rent for them a margarita machine for their Cinco de Mayo party or whatever they were doing.
Oh my gosh.
And
be
you
the
can have all the
mariachi.
chairs for the margarita machine rental. And so we literally were able
Wow.
to go pick up 120 cool looking office chairs for about $400. And it was a lifesaver.
That's
So I think the moral of the story is, whether it's a blessing from God or a little luck along the way, sometimes it takes some of those twists to get up and running.
Did you? What'd you tell mom?
I told Mom she was right.
I thought you were going to say, Mom, it worked.
It worked, Mom. It worked. Good
Thanks
job.
for the prayers.
Yeah,
I'm
Mom's
just
prayers
add a
worked.
prayer warrior to my
Yeah.
staff. Right?
So when you opened the doors at the end of 2012, I think you said it was, how many members had you already signed up?
Yeah, so we did some interesting things. We thankfully did a little pre-marketing along the way. We were doing these coffee shop meetups and just trying to inform the public what the heck coworking was.
Yeah.
Because again, you didn't have WeWork's $1 million marketing, budget to almost kind of hide within. I mean, nobody knew what we were doing. But the pre-marketing worked. We were able to sign, I think it was somewhere between about 25 to 30 members. Thankfully, Uber was one of them.
Nice.
They took our largest office. We had 3 offices at the
Wow.
time. It was a predominantly open space. But Uber, being they were launching their Texas operation in 2012, and that's an actually pretty interesting story how we landed them as well. But they added a lot of credit to what we were doing, being
Yeah.
able to say that we had one of the nation's best startups with us. So that was cool.
So how did that happen?
That story involves drinking at a bar at 2:00 on a Tuesday.
All right.
The
All meaningful
PM,
progress
I
begins by
assume.
telling the truth.
right, yeah, we're telling the full truth here today. So, I was at Christie's Sports Bar on McKinney, and I was literally the only one in there. And I was watching a Rangers game and just had my laptop up.
Wait a
and-
minute. An entrepreneur at 2 p.m. drinking alone in a bar.
Well, remember, Comedy Desk hadn't opened yet.
Yeah.
I was really just kind of a jobless, homeless dude at that time.
And you had the beard already?
Right, I did. So I was in there. I was getting a little work done watching the game, and in walks this big dude, and he sits right next to me. And the guy's name is John Boo. I'll never forget that. He's got a crazy name, but his name's John Boo, and we start talking, and he's kind of, what do you do? What does he do? And he was like, I'm a launcher for Uber. And I just found out what Uber was at South by Southwest that year. They had rented a bunch of pedicabs and were driving people around in Austin because they had no cars yet in the
that's
city.
before
They
Austin
hadn't
banned
launched.
them.
Yeah, that was well before Austin banned them. But he was saying, he was like, look, I literally just got off the plane, and I'm looking for an office space for the first 4 employees for Uber Texas. And I was like, dude, I might have something for you.
Got you the hookup.
And so we literally got into a cab because there was no Uber.
That must have pained him.
Yeah, and we drove over to Common Desk in Deep Ellum. It was still under construction, and the next day he signed the deal, and Uber was with us for the first couple of years of our business, which is cool. They finally outgrow us. I think they now have around 200 or so employees in Dallas.
So let's talk about co-working in general, because as you said in the intro, that it's open office space, it's a few individual offices, some conference rooms, but it's really more of a community and everything else. And so talk to us a little about that community and what components there are to that community that you've experimented with, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because you do have a lot of people that they'll walk into a co-working space or walk into an executive suite operation. And they're like, well, what is the real difference? It's
Walk into them and you'll know.
some of the newest executive suite operations, look and feel much better. But the real difference is, I believe any operation that calls itself co-working puts community at the very core of what they're doing. And the staff that's in place, if they're doing their jobs, are really trying their best to really connect people within the space on a daily basis. And what that looks like for Common Desk is we really try to do some sort of an event big or small, daily, that's helping to kind of bring people out of their offices and to connect with each other. And some of those events are very serious. It might be some sort of a TED Talk where, people are learning on how to be better HR directors, or it could be something fun like a whiskey tasting happening down at the hospitality bar with Megan. And so, we keep it light. Sometimes we go heavy, but it's just meant to bring people together at the end of the day. And those little serendipitous interactions work. They not only work for your smaller freelancers, they're looking for the next gig that's going to allow them to eat at night. They're also now it's something that enterprise business is becoming really interested in, and being able to bring a group into a co-working space and surround themselves with a talent pool of people working on all kinds of different things, because it's good for the employee morale.
So you guys, we've joked about offering the free beer and, the whiskey and whatever, but you also offer coffee and, a whole bunch of other stuff. But you're really not offering like secretarial services like the old executive suites used to, are you?
We do not. Of course, going back to the story of Megan, the staff is always there to help, and they're instructed to say yes anytime they can. And so we try to do as much as we can, but business has changed. Even if you look at some of these big law firms, they do not have all of these administrative assistants sitting right outside of their offices anymore. A lot of these things are happening offsite or in the clouds, or it's been, technology has disrupted it. And so we see very little needs for that. We don't even offer like VoIP phone systems inside of the space. Most people do business from their cell phone
Right.
these days.
Are there certain industries that seem to work better for co-working than others?
I would have said yes to that a few years ago. But co-working has really expanded over the last couple of years to where it's really attracting just about any industry and really just about any size of company.
What would you say is like the largest client that you've had in there?
The largest client that we have,
Count-wise.
Yeah, they've got about 90 people inside of Common Desk, especially the Plano location. Wow. But that really kind of speaks to the enterprise side of the business. I think a lot of people think that they're going to walk into a Common Desk or any other co-working space for that means and see a bunch of hipsters in hoodies and, drinking their beer. Hacking away. And to be honest with you, in 2012, that was probably the case. But those things have changed in the fact that, companies big and small are really leveraging the fact that you can take advantage of an office space that honestly, for a Class A type offering, it's some of the most inexpensive space in town. And it's turnkeyed for you. You've got a great experience. Your employees are going to love it, and the flexibility is built in.
Well, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
Stick around.
This is Brian Fisher, president of Human Coalition, and I appreciate Bob and Stephen reminding everyone why I'm so disliked.
We're back with the next level and our special guest, Nick Clark, founder and CEO of Common Desk, thecommondesk.com.
So, Nick, WeWork and lots of other co-working concepts are out there. So how do you differentiate Common Desk from sort of all the rest that are out there?
Yeah, it's a good question. The WeWork is blowing up. I mean, they're the $21 billion gorilla in our industry. But it's been interesting to see kind of what has happened because of that. WeWork themselves are really kind of becoming a landlord, so to speak. I mean, they're now doing deals that are north of 100,000 square feet with one company. And it's freaking some people out there. Some of the largest landlords in the world, like Boston Properties, are finally kind of waking up to this and realizing, oh crap. They're going to be hard to compete with, and they've got a lot of money behind them.
Well, and in fact, in 2017, the total square footage leased in the entire country for that whole year, 50% was to co-working concepts.
Yeah, it's
which is amazing, but it's also kind of scary.
It's a crazy, scary statistic. And you know what we hear all the time, and landlords asking us is like, hey, is it becoming oversaturated? You know, is it a fad right now?
Right.
And you know, when there is a bust, when the economy slows down a bit, will co-working dissolve, or will what happens then? And honestly, you know, we're very bullish as a company in saying, hey, like if you look at Dallas and you look at the product allocation right now, it's about 1.5% flexible. And what I would call flexible is, you know, your spec suites, your executive suites, your co-working spaces. But if you look at trends and if you look at what some of the biggest companies in the world are saying, like a Google, saying that by 2020, I mean, there's a good chance that the demand for office space out there will be 20 to 30% flexible here in the next couple of years. And that is something that the traditional landlords are having a very hard time with. I mean,
hard time.
you know, the capital markets are not set up to meet that demand. Lenders are not set up to meet that demand, so it's difficult.
When you guys are both real estate guys, but for the non-real estate guys, so help me understand, like, what's tough about that for the landlord, right?
Well,
I mean, if I'm, then there's more demand, then Common Desk comes to my building.
Well, here's the
I
problem.
still leased it, right?
In the 80s, so the real estate depression occurred from about 86 to 95 or so, 96.
Okay.
So during that 10-year stretch, pretty much every executive suite concept died. And the reason is because when rental rates fall, when companies stop hiring people, then who's going to be occupying the space? Well, the office tenants, the companies that lease space in office buildings, typically are signing 3 to 10-year leases.
Right.
When they go to an executive suite, they're typically signing 3 to 1-year leases.
Therefore,
Therefore, they can react far quicker to a downturn in the economy than the other people can. So that's one reason. The other thing is, you know, it's just you got a lot back then anyway. The people in the executive suite were primarily a lot of sort of, you know, individuals. They weren't really big companies that had credit, so they would just walk away, you know, and who's going to go after them?
Sure.
And that happened to the office tenants as well to some extent, but not to the extent that it did executive suites. So that's where when we start talking about co-working in a downturn, is that same thing going to happen to them, or have we fundamentally changed in our need for flexible office space that Nick's talking about?
Look, I think we could get on this subject for about 2 hours. And so maybe I need to back us out of the weeds here a little bit. But the fact of the matter is that yes, WeWork is growing incredibly. Co-working is growing incredibly. But the landlords are becoming a little bit afraid of what WeWork is currently doing. I mean, they have a goal as a company this year of opening 1 million square feet a month. That's crazy.
insane, right?
And so, you know, what we've done with Common Desk is we are actually now working on partnering with some of the largest landlords in the world to say, hey, let's partner together. Let's be on the same side of the table to go out and really beat the WeWorks of the world. And that's the nature of the agreement that we have with Granite Properties up at Granite Park.
Great landlord.
Those guys are awesome, and you know, we've been able to do a lot of good together. We've been able to win a contract away from WeWork, which was Walmart, and we landed Walmart's technology division into Granite Park, which was a cool win. And now Walmart's continuing to grow, and they're looking at more space within the park, and we really believe that, you know, the future of office is being able to offer almost like a suite of products as it pertains to workspaces within a building. And most landlords right now, they can only offer custom long-term space. And we're saying that, hey, if we can do a flexible workspace installation inside of a building, it allows for you to be able to see all deals.
Yeah.
Bob, you can probably say, like, as a tenant rep broker, you know, it's getting harder and harder for companies to define what their requirement looks like.
And we're seeing what I would call co-working elements being incorporated into the design of a regular office space.
Definitely,
You know, we
yes.
just did a lease with a client that took 20,000 feet, and they wanted little huddle areas, and they wanted an open kitchen,
Yeah.
and they wanted a much more open office and not as many offices. And when they did have offices, they wanted those to be glass,
Yeah.
instead of hard walls. They don't, nobody wants to be sort of isolated anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where you see, I mean, I think some of the best co-working operators out there will be some of the future operators of office buildings in the coming years.
So with WeWork, one of their big selling points is that they have all these. In fact, I kind of laugh. I call WeWork people in aquariums because they have all these glass boxes, and you can lease a glass box with 1 desk or 5 desks or 50 desks, and so when you walk down their corridors, you have tons and tons of these glass boxes with people on them of varying sizes. And I'm not a big fan, honestly, but their common areas are okay. But the individual blocks or aquariums, I'm not a big fan of. But the one thing that they are doing with that, though, is that they're selling a lot of that to the big corporate, teams that have a specific project. And they come in, they do their project, and then they go wherever.
Yeah.
So the design of the space tends to lend itself to sort of different aspects of the business or the demand.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'm a highly ADD person, and so the glass maze would drive me nuts. My head would just be on a swivel all day. So we install a little bit more privacy at Common Desk, but there definitely has to be flexibility within the design of co-working because things are constantly changing, and it's a revolving door as a business goes.
So where are you going? Like what's y'all's future look like? What are you guys up to?
Yeah, so we're continuing to double down on being able to provide an experience within an office building, and not just within the 4 walls of Common Desk. And so last year we acquired a local coffee brand.
Congrats!
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. The coffee business is actually fun. Doesn't make a whole lot of money, but it's it's fun.
Now you bought it, but then you rebranded it immediately.
We did. The brand. So it was Method Coffee. There was a few trademark issues with that brand.
Oh, okay.
And so we rebranded it into Fiction Coffee. But the point of acquiring the coffee shop was, 1, we think the coffee business is cool, but 2, a lot of these landlords are obsessed with getting a great coffee shop into their project.
Sure.
And of course, it's hard to attract some of these groups into some of the buildings that they want them in. And so we're like, hey, what if we were able to kind of bring this under our umbrella, bring it in house, and then, with the landlords that we're doing deals with, we can bring 2 brands to their building now.
So the coffee shop will be available to all their tenants in the whole building?
It would. So we
Okay.
would the coffee shop and some of our newest installations would, go into the tenant lounge area, and it would kind of activate the lounge, and now you can go into the lounge and get a great cappuccino or a great latte. Again, these are just things that you typically wouldn't see in an office building, and it really speaks to at Common Desk we've got this philosophy, and we sum it up with 1 word. It's a funny word, but I got to say it on air.
Okay. We're going to get in trouble with the FCC?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We call it hospitality.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, so it's something that we remind our employees of at all times, and I would say that Megan and the story that you were telling about her earlier, it seems like she was being very hospitable with you and your wife.
Yeah.
But we like the word hospitality because we think it perfectly sums up what is happening or what we are trying to create within an office building, which is honestly, it's creating an environment that feels a lot like the Jewel Hotel, where the lobby is being activated, the staff is friendly, and they're there to greet you and make sure that you're having a good time, and there's food and beverage experiences that you're going to enjoy. And soon, with the newest things that we're working on, there will be food and beverage delivery up to your office that's through the Common Desk app. And so the building truly does operate like a hotel
So
in
you're
many ways.
really also partnering with that building owner then. I mean, you're creating value for them, for all their tenants.
That's the goal.
Wow.
So I think that's kind of the next bounce of the ball for us is saying, hey, we now want to be able to kind of provide that experience that you feel within Common Desk throughout the building.
So we only have about 15 seconds left, but how do you compete with WeWork whenever they have 150 locations worldwide?
We call it the better together approach. It's nice to be able to lean back on a Granite Properties, and Granite has a big team. We have a big team here locally, and so I think that really helps us to compete against a WeWork. And look, WeWork, we've got a lot of respect for them as a brand, but not everybody likes the glass maze effect of offices.
Aquarium.
Right.
Nick, thanks so much for being our guest today. We've really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Listeners, please go to thecommondesk.com to learn more. Go to nextlevelshow.com to listen to all of our other shows, and we'll be back next week with another great guest.
Help spread the word.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.